Okay, we're going to try something new. I'm going to try, like essentially like a call-in talk show sort of thing where parents, you can just, there's a link below. It's pbmd.co/join live. And you can literally hop on and we can just talk through something. You'll show up on the screen. We can talk through whatever questions or concerns that you have. You can do it from your phone. I think you have to use Safari or Chrome. And then we can just talk through whatever you want. But I know that it'll take a minute or two before anybody is brave enough to be the first person to actually hop on. Oops. And so in the meantime, I'm going to just do a little bit of common question that I get. A lot of parents wonder what to do about milk, especially around, oops, I'm definitely hearing myself. Oh, okay. Right when I was getting started, it was like could hear myself in my ear. Didn't really want to do that for 30, 45 minutes. Okay, thanks for joining. A lot of parents wonder about what to do about milk, especially at age 12 months and beyond. It can be confusing, it can be unclear, it can lead to guilt or stress. My kid's not drinking enough milk, what do I do? Which one is best? If my child doesn't like cow's milk, we don't drink cow's milk, or they're allergic to cow's milk, what do we do? And so I just wanted to go through and quickly kind of clarify what to expect when it comes to milk so that you feel more comfortable, confident, less confused, less stressed, less worried about the milk. And the thing to know is that there's a huge mental shift in your way of thinking about the nutrition that your child gets once they are 12 months and beyond. The first year is all about the milk, right? It's all about how many ounces they're taking. Are they taking enough? Are they growing? What percentile are they at? How many ounces are they taking per day? All these different things that come up. And then at 12 months, it's like, well, what do we do now? You're telling me to drop formula, or we're weaning and switching from breastfeeding to food. How do we handle the milk? And I think it's a sticking point for a lot of parents, and it causes a lot of confusion, and it doesn't need to. A lot of times, we as pediatricians will make it harder too, because on those forms, how many ounces of milk they drink, how many servings of dairy, how many servings of fruits, how many servings of veggies, we make it really complicated for parents and feel like they're not tracking well enough and don't have enough information. But the big mental shift is that in the first year of life, you focus on the number of ounces and the milk and the calories, and the nutrition comes from milk, formula or breast milk. At 12 months and beyond, the nutrition comes from food. And so we should focus our efforts and energy and concern about food rather than about how much of milk they drink. It's just it's not a relevant thing going forward for their overall nutrition. If they're healthy, if they're otherwise healthy and growing fine, we don't need to worry about how many ounces of milk that your child is taking on any given day, week, or month. Some like milk, some don't like milk. Some families drink a lot of milk, some don't drink any milk, and that's all fine. So when parents come in and they say like how many ounces of milk they should drink, I say, let's keep it really simple. Their food, their nutrition, their calories are going to come primarily from the food that they eat. Milk will provide a little bit of supplemental calories and calcium and things like that, but it's mostly hydration that it provides, and that can be provided by milk. It can be provided by water. Those are two good options. And when I say milk, I mean the different types of milk that we're going to talk through as well. So try not to worry so much about how much milk they're actually getting. What I tell parents is, don't worry about the number of ounces of milk. At meal times, offer milk. Offer water if your kid doesn't like milk. Not a big deal either way. But most parents like to provide milk because it feels like the right thing to do. And because there's been really good got milk sort of campaigns going on for ages that instill in us that our child will die if they don't have a certain number of ounces of cow's milk per day. So add a year. Switch. If you're going to do cow's milk, add a year, switch to whole milk. It has a good amount of vitamin D and calories and fat and all those things that kids need. And offer it to them at meal times. At mealtimes, make them a sippy cup full of milk. If they drink it, great. If they don't, great. we always just put them back in the fridge and then get them out at the next mealtime. And in between meals, all you have to do is provide water. And I usually just have them have a sippy cup around so that they can get a drink when they like and have some autonomy and some control over that so that they can take drinks of water. Now, if you leave out a cup of milk all day, they'll just drink milk all day. And then they'll drink 30, 40 ounces of milk in a day, and they won't eat their food. And they'll get chubby, and you'll think, well, they're growing great. They just love milk. But they'll actually be at risk for getting anemic under those circumstances. And I've seen really, chubby kids that their parents at first tell me, yeah, they're a great eater. Look at how he's growing. But then we get into the weeds a little bit of it and figure out that they're drinking almost a gallon of milk or more per day. And their hemoglobin is 6 because they're iron deficient because all they're drinking is cow's milk and not getting calories from any other source. So what I would say is, if you have to err on one side, err on the side of too little milk versus too much milk. Too little milk you just replace with foods, you just replace with water, no problem. But the other side of the equation, the too much milk, causes a lot more short-term and long-term harm in terms of iron deficiency anemia, which both causes anemia, causes fatigue, it causes them to be overtired, but can actually affect their brain and their development as well. So I would err on the side of too little milk rather than too much milk. Now, so big picture, going back to the big picture, milk at meal times, water the rest of the day. They don't need a cup of milk before bed. They don't need an overnight feeding of milk or anything like that. Just milk at meal times. That's how I keep it easy for my patients and easy for my own family. Now, often parents will say, okay, my child doesn't like cow's milk. We don't drink cow's milk for whatever reason. Is there an alternative milk that is fine? And the answer is yes. Pretty much all of the other alternative milks are okay. I'm going to show you here a little comparison chart that hopefully you can see and look through in terms of whole milk versus the other types of milk that are out there. The typical ones that I get asked about are whole milk, which is cow's milk, soy, coconut a little bit, almond a lot, oat milk a lot. And they all have their differences. And it's like, okay, I'm going to slide across and look, and well, how does it compare? You don't really have to spend too much time or mental energy comparing all of these to figure out which one is the absolute best, because most of their nutrition is still going to come from the cow's milk. Most of their nutrition is going to come from the food they eat, not the milk that they drink. And so you don't need to worry too much or get too much into the weeds, because this isn't going to be their primary source. This is a little bit of a drink that they get at meal times, and that's going to be it. So it doesn't matter in the big picture which of these you choose. I usually tell parents to either do almond milk or oat milk, and that is because most parents that don't drink cow's milk often turn to one of these. If you look at the comparison, energy-wise, in terms of the calories, it's quite similar in terms of oat milk to cow's milk, and so that would be my benefit from that perspective. Calcium-wise, both are great, and I'm looking at here. Oat milk does have more carbs, so we're not going to give them a ton of oat milk anyways, so we're not going to worry about that in the big picture of things. And I would say if you are going to just provide it at mealtime and they're healthy and they're growing and we're not concerned about them being overweight or anything like that at this young age, then I wouldn't worry about it. And I would probably just pick oat milk because it's caloric dense. It has a good amount of protein, not as much protein, but again, their protein source is the food that they eat, not what they drink. Carbs are a little bit higher, those sorts of things. But it does have a lot more iron and a good amount of vitamin D in it too. So I usually tell parents oat milk. If they have almond milk at home and they really want to do that, I don't, put up a fight or anything like that. That's fine. Their nutrition comes from the food that they eat is the bottom line. So hopefully that's helpful in terms of the overall discussion of milk. And I know it can be confusing and I know it can be stressful, and you compare them or hear how many ounces other kids are drinking, and you think that your kid is drinking too little or they don't really like it. Not a big deal. Don't worry about it. You can get lots of these things. You can get calcium from a lot of different sources. You can get iron and all those different things, vitamin D from a lot of different sources. So don't feel like the milk is the end all be all. And in fact, like I said, if you err on the side of too little milk, you'll be in better shape than if you err on the side of too much milk. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, I'm going to move on. I need some people to ask or to hop onto the interview to ask some questions, or it's going to be a really short broadcast. So if you would, go to pbmd.co/join live and join so that we can talk through an issue or concern that you're facing. I will say, if you're looking for a little bit more advice on feeding your baby and your toddler, it can be confusing, it can be tricky. I have a course that I've put together called Unpicky Eaters. It's a video course kind of like this, where we just talk through all the different aspects of feeding your child, both nutritionally, both starting solid foods, how to start solid foods, all about baby-led weaning, and then dinner time issues that parents typically face, in terms of he's throwing his food on the floor, he won't eat what we give him, what do we do? All of those things we talk through in Unpicky Eaters. So if you feel like, okay, this little milk tutorial has been really helpful, it's taken away a lot of the anxiety and stress and guilt and worry that I've been experiencing, then check out unpickyeaters.com and see if it's a good fit for you, or click the link below. We'll put the link below so that you can join Unpicky Eaters if you like. Okay, now I'm going to switch my screen and wait for somebody to join live, because I want to talk to somebody live on the air with whatever question or concern they have, so that I can hear from them. I'm going to look and see if anybody has asked in the comments any questions in particular, but I don't think anybody has. What are some good alternatives if a toddler does not drink milk, please? So, good question. While I am waiting for somebody to actually join us live, I will reiterate again that some good alternatives if your toddler doesn't drink milk is water. Water would be the right choice for them in terms of their liquid hydration. You don't have to do something special. You don't have to do anything like that, juice or anything along those lines to replace. It's just water. It's just hydration. Get them to eat good foods otherwise. Get them to eat a variety of healthy foods, and you have nothing to worry about. Okay, my screen just froze here. I think I'm going to call it for today since we didn't have any takers on the live interview. But I will offer this again, and if people have a live question that they want to ask, I'd be more than happy to talk through it. So, anyways, hope everybody has a good day. Keep up the good work.